You have big dreams of losing weight and creating a healthy, joyful life. But you find yourself craving sugar, caught up in what the scale says, and diet hopping. Dieting is the old way of losing weight. And the good news is I'm going to give you a new way of eating so you can ditch diets for good and build a healthy relationship with real food. My name is Megan Olson, certified nutrition practitioner, creator of Skinny Fitalicious, and your host of the Dish on Diets show. Hello, friends. Today I have a special guest on the podcast, my client, Lanita. I love having these client podcasts. They're actually my most popular podcasts that I do, and I get requests from people all the time. Have more clients on your podcast. I love hearing from them. So today, Lanita is coming on the podcast. She's been working with me for about 18 months. Lanita is 28 years old. And she has a lot of advice for all of you. She's a very wise 28-year-old. She came to me actually from a very unique situation. She has avascular necrosis, and when she was diagnosed, she actually found me by doing a Google search, because I also had avascular necrosis until I had my hip replacement a few years ago. So she's been working with me for the last 18 months. She's lost a bunch of weight, but she's also gained a lot of knowledge that she is sharing with you today. I hope you enjoy her podcast. Hi, Lanita. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Megan. Thank you.
So good to have you today. Thanks for coming on. I know you've got a lot to share with the listeners today, and I'm excited for you to tell them about your health journey, your weight journey, and all the things that you've learned as we've been working together these last few months. So why don't you just kind of spend some time talking a little bit about yourself and whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. So I am 28 years old, and I'm from northern Arizona, so close to the Utah border. I'm a graphic designer and a photographer, and I've actually got into teaching this year. I come from a really big family, so lots of family stuff going on. I have a lot of hobbies and do volunteering and big list of things going on.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your health and weight journey?
So it started clear back when I was 13. Is when I first started thinking about it. And the reason why I started thinking about it is because I went to my doctor for my yearly checkup, and the doctors are telling me that I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol at age 13. And
Wow.
they started telling me, like, you need to lose weight. And they didn't really tell me how or what I needed to do or anything like that. But I remember when I was 14, then that was when I first got into my first diet. And it was, I don't know, it's probably not very familiar to very many people, but it's called the cabbage stew diet.
Mm.
So you're supposed to lose like a pound a day or something crazy like that. But this is, 14 years old. I remember that we had, with my friends and I, then we had like a sleepover, like a party, and we weren't quite done with my diet. I weren't quite done with my diet. And I remember thinking, screw this, because I want to have parties and treats, and just gave up on it. And I think that's kind of where I got that all or nothing mindset started, was clear back.
At 14. Hey.
Yeah. And then from there, I kind of just struggled like throughout my teenage years of, gaining and losing. And when I was about, in my late teens, early 20s, then I had an accident, and I developed AVN, which is avascular necrosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so the doctors told me, like, you have to, they didn't give me very much hope. So they just said, you're not going to be able to exercise, you're not going to be able to do a lot of things in your life. But also on the next sentence they're telling me is, you need to lose weight, but limit your activity. So that was the year that I really started struggling a lot. And I thought, this thing came up where some people I knew were doing it. It was this fast. It was this crazy fast where you fast, you don't eat anything for 10 days, go on these pills that are supposed to replace all your nutrition. And so I went on that fast and I lost 20 pounds. And it was great. I felt good and everything, but the biggest thing is within 2 years. The struggle and a lot of other things going on in my life. I was full-time manager and going to school. Just had a lot of things. So I was eating out a lot and my weight just came to a peak that I hadn't known before. But anyways, I in the course of that time after losing those 20 pounds, before 2 years was up, I had already gained all back plus more.
Mm.
And so then after 2 years, I thought, yeah, I'll just do this again and it'll just be easy 20 pounds and I'll just lose it again. So I tried it again and it weren't the same as the time before. I'd only lost 5 pounds this time. It was miserable. I
Yeah.
was so frustrating to not be able to lose the weight like I did before. So then the next thing I tried was Noom and did that for about 3 months. That didn't work very good for me. And then the next thing I tried was Beyond Body, and it's basically a program where you answer a few questions and then they give you like a really strict, rigid meal plan for like 8 weeks.
Wow.
But the biggest problems I had with those diets was I would lose the weight or diets or fasts or crazy things I did, lose the weight, and then I'd gain everything back plus more. And I was just always miserable, always starving. Like I remember I couldn't even really live my life. I was just thinking, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? That's all I could think about because I was hungry or just craving everything. Anyways, so that's kind of where I'm
Mm.
at. That's where I was at, anyways.
Yeah. So this was all after your diagnosis with avascular necrosis. You were kind of doing all these different diets after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, and for people who are listening, avascular necrosis, if you're not familiar, it basically means that you're bone on bone. So you've got a joint that's bone on bone, and it can be very painful. And losing weight is often recommended when you have that condition because it alleviates some of that pain or that weight on your joints. I actually had avascular necrosis, and that's how Lanita and I actually met, which she's going to talk
Yeah.
to you about in a few seconds.
Yeah, it's basically where the bone doesn't loses the blood supply so the tissues start to die.
Yep, yep, exactly, exactly. So basically, you had this diagnosis, which sucks, as I've had it myself, and then you kind of went through all these different diets and were totally miserable and kept regaining weight after losing weight. And then what happened?
Found you.
Oh, okay. That leads you to me. Okay. So
But
how
I
did you end
want to,
up? How did you find me? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so I was just gonna say, I do want to say though, the reason why those, now that I know, have more education, I think the biggest reason why those diets weren't working for me is just the lack of education. Even when
Mm.
I was counting calories and all that, I didn't know why I was. I didn't know what foods, all I knew is that I was just tracking calories and then they didn't teach me maintenance either, which we'll get into later, I think.
So like even when you did Noom, because it's a calorie tracking app, they didn't give you any like nutritional guidance or anything?
No, I just was plugging food in there. I didn't know what protein was, I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't know how important it was and how much I needed. And
Yeah. 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 I mean, you could technically just plug calories in, but then you might not stay full or.
yeah,
Hmm.
sure.
Interesting. Okay. So go on. How did you meet me then?
So I was actually doing research on my diagnosis, the avascular necrosis or AVN, and I was like, there's got to be somebody that has experience with this, that's experienced this, and I just felt really alone and like didn't know where to go or what to do, and um, so I was doing some research and I found your blog about your experience with avascular necrosis, and it just really inspired me because I'm like, hey, she understands. Somebody has had success with weight loss and feeling better and getting their life back together. So that's when I reached out, is
Mhm.
after reading that.
Yeah. Yep. So you reached out to me, and I remember you reaching out and saying, I'm younger than your typical client. I don't know if you'll actually work with me. I think you sent me like this long email, as I recall.
Yeah. So I actually sent you one a few months earlier and I didn't give you too much detail. And you're like, well, I usually work with older clients. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was actually almost a year later
Ah.
that I was listening to one of your podcasts and I was like, okay, this is it. I'm done. because what happened is after I talked to you, then I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to wait till I'm 35.
Oh no. Oh.
But I just thought, I'll just sit here and try not to gain any more weight. I thought I'm not doing any more diets because I already know what that's gonna do. So I'm like, well, I'll just do the best I can. And so I did as much as I could, just listening to your podcast and all of that. And then a year later came by and I'm like, well, she's just gonna have to say yes. I'm not gonna give her any other choice.
Oh, that's too funny.
So I sent you the email and I just said, I have the same condition and explained to you a little bit. And you said, yes, I'd be glad to help you. So, but I remember as I was closing, I'm like, I will keep reaching out.
I'm going to keep harassing this woman until she takes me on as a client. Oh, that's too funny. I remember you sent me, as I recall, a pretty long, extensive email about your situation. And then I think at some point we got on a consultation, and
Yeah.
that's where we got you signed up and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe you waited a whole year. I don't think I knew that. How funny.
Yeah. But I think everything happens like, I think it was perfect timing though, even though it did happen a little later for me, because I feel like I was just in a really good spot to begin that journey. And like, it's just the perfect timing. So it worked out how it was supposed to, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is how things in life typically happen, right? It works out when it works out. So for those who are listening, yes, I do work with clients that are younger than 35 because sometimes people will reach out to me and be like, I see you only take clients who are 35. I'm like, no, I do work with younger people. So Lanita is in her 20s and she's been working with me for quite some time. So anyways, that AVN, avascular necrosis, that's what ended up um, getting you to work with me. And I guess let's talk a little bit about like what are some of the things that we had to work on for you?
Yeah. Well, I could make a whole list, but I think the main thing was, I probably wouldn't say it in the beginning of the journey, but looking back, I think the main thing was like fear of failure and like inconsistency. So
Hmm.
I remember just saying like, Megan, I can't do this because every time I try a new habit, then I just quit. And like I never can, I've never been able to be consistent. And I thought if I like missed one day of a walk or something, then I totally failed. I think that was the main thing. And then I mean just a lot of things like emotional eating, confusion with food was a big one for me. I remember saying, is this bad for me? Is this bad for me? And also like my energy was really, really down. And I remember I didn't even think when I first started working with you, I didn't even really think, hey, I'm gonna get my energy back up. But now that I look back, I remember thinking something was horribly wrong. And I'd do all this Google and like, what can cause this kind of low energy and all of that. But
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people live with low energy and they don't realize they are meant to actually feel a lot better.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. For you, there was definitely a lot of mindset work we had to work on.
yeah,
So,
for
you
sure.
know, because the habits were kind of on and off and you were kind of inconsistent with things, and we had to really work on your self-talk and your mindset around failing, right? And just being as consistent and doing something versus nothing, especially with your avascular necrosis, because we didn't like get you to walk like 10,000 steps overnight. We had to
No,
kind of sort of
that,
build up and we had to work with your condition slowly and gradually over time, right?
yeah, it was a journey for sure. I remember one of the first calls, maybe the first or second call, I remember you saying, giving me a few guidelines, the first little baby steps. And I remember you said, we need to work on mindset. And I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can change that. And I came back and I'm like, Megan, that is way harder than it sounds.
Yep, yep. I know. It's so hard to describe to somebody like changing your mindset and what that all entails.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us. What are you doing? What are some of the things, I guess, that you're, doing now that you weren't doing before?
I think the biggest thing is just learning that I'm learning. So that one was a huge thing for me.
Hmm.
And just also then I just learned so much about myself that I didn't know before. And it might sound crazy, but like just knowing what to do and like when I crave this or when I have low energy, then try this, just having those answers and those guidelines. And so like learning all about averages
Hmm.
and a big part of what I do now is instead of always like, oh, I had a bad day and a lot of times it's not really a bad day. It's just something went on. You couldn't get as many steps or, you didn't get as much protein. But I think like learning those averages and
Hmm.
learning that, you celebrate everything. I got, a little less steps today, but I'm really proud of myself because I had all these deadlines and things going on in my life. Whereas like before, then all I could think about was the bad things. And then also another thing is just looking for the good. Like
Hmm.
on those days that I have more time or more energy, then I emphasize those days and do extra that day instead of just only watching for the bad day and say, oh, I did terrible. And then the other thing is of like just when I was, as we were going through our journey together, then I remember I would, it'd be about time for another session or another call, and I'd be like, oh, Megan's gonna have to tell me some big drastic change or some consequence I did because I did horrible in this area. But every time I came to the call, I'd come back and was like, wow, I was just so like motivated and ready to just keep going. And a big part of it is just because you would help me like, look, this is what you've done good. This is what you're doing. You need to look at the data and see what's
Hmm.
really happening here.
Hmm. Yeah, because our brain will focus on all the bad stuff or all the stuff we're not doing good enough yet. Curious, how many steps a day are you walking now? Are you not walking? Are you not exercising? People probably need to hear this.
Actually, this last week, 2 weeks, my averages have been up to 12,000 steps a day.
Wow. And what's your pain with your ABN?
Probably like a one or two right now.
Hmm. Wow. What are some of the other type of exercises you do?
I do bike cycling, like I do outdoor cycling, and I also do um, strength training now, getting
Yep.
into that. And I've gotten into some things that I never would have dreamed of me doing before we worked together. And like coming to the call and saying, Megan, I hiked 7 miles, and now I've gotten into like mountain biking and things that I never would have dreamed of.
Hmm. Yeah. And here the doctors told you not to do anything.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you need to lose weight, but limit your activity.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And and now you're doing all this activity and you're feeling better, right? Your energy's better.
Yeah, huge. Sometimes I feel like I can like turn the world over.
I know. Yeah. It's a
I
huge difference.
I need to do something with this energy. What needs done? What can I do?
Yeah. I mean, I experienced the same thing with my avascular necrosis. I went to Mayo Clinic and they, said you're going to need a hip replacement at a young age and you should be prepared to be in a wheelchair by the time you're in your 40s. So you should sit around and do nothing. And oh, by the way, you should lose weight. And I remember thinking, because there were two Mayo Clinic doctors, I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, my life is over. This is like terrible. I'm in my 20s and this is what they're telling me. And I think one day I just got so frustrated with just sitting around and feeling terrible all the time. And that's when I just started walking 10 minutes every day. And as I started doing that, I actually had less joint pain. That was the irony. Like sitting around and being overweight, I had way more joint pain, way more mobility issues. I don't know if you've experienced that, but as I started walking and moving and strength training, my pain level decreased, which was really interesting.
Yeah, it's actually been that same for me. So when I
Hmm.
sit a lot and limit my activity, then
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
worse.
you get like more like arthritic and kind of cranky with your joints.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I need to go walk or I'm gonna set up like cement.
Hmm. Yeah. So it is kind of interesting that doctors are giving that kind of advice. And, I hate to say doctors are wrong, but I think sometimes sitting is not necessarily the answer.
And even like if you would have told me when we first started working, hey, you're gonna get, or anybody would have told me a year ago, you're gonna be in a year, you're gonna be walking that many steps, I wouldn't have believed them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we certainly didn't like start you on day one. Hey, Lanita, go walk 10,000 steps. Let's see how you do. We
Yeah,
didn't
and
do that.
you never told me that either. And
Mhm.
even though I think you knew probably that I could get there, but I just remember like one of the calls I had just been to an appointment with one of my doctors and didn't just hear the greatest news. And remember, I was like ready to fall apart. And I remember you just telling me like, focus on what you can control. Like you never really told me, hey, I'm like, maybe I should limit my steps. You never really told me, that's the wrong thing to do. But you just says, hey, focus on what you can control. And that was huge turning point for me. And just like having that mindset, then I don't know, it seems like I just kind of took off and didn't let that get in the way anymore. I mean, I was careful. I listened to my body and what it was saying, but
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you've obviously learned that movement is really helpful for you. And you've also learned that like shifting your mindset and focusing on what you can control, focusing on what you are doing well, like these things are very helpful for you, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that these are like kind of the main things that helped you overcome your weight struggles? Because you have lost a good chunk of weight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was huge. And then just, the mindset was the biggest thing, but also just education around food. I mean, just knowing what a balanced meal was. I mean, because I thought I knew that before,
Mm,
but, I thought I was eating pretty healthy before, but just knowing that, like now my brain automatically just goes to, do I have my fiber? Do I have my protein? What does this meal look like? And
hmm
even like when I go to birthday parties or, holidays or things like that, then I'm like, I don't have this fear of, oh, I'm gonna eat too much food. I'm just so much more in control of that, and that's huge for me.
Right. Right. Did you struggle with emotional eating before we started working together? I forgot to mention that.
Yes, I did. I did.
Okay.
I remember like, yeah, if something was wrong or something was stressful, then yeah, go eat cookies or
How did
ice cream.
that change during our time together, do you think?
Well, I think the thing that was the biggest for me was I didn't come to the call and have you say like, okay, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this. It was like, let's add this in, let's add this in. Let's make sure you're getting your fiber, your protein, your, fruits and vegetables. And it was kind of just natural. Like the cravings just kind of went away on themselves. I mean, it's still a journey. It's not like I'm perfect. I still, enjoy fun things sometimes, but I think that was the biggest thing for me was just having that mindset shift of I can still have that if I really want to.
hmm hmm Yeah. Do you think that's one of like the most important things you've like learned during this journey that I can have this if I want it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things. And then just another thing is like even the maintenance part was huge for me too.
Ah, yeah, let's talk a little bit. Well, so let's talk a little bit about our journey, right? We worked together. We worked first on habits,
Right,
right? And then we worked on a deficit, and you lost some body fat during that deficit, right?
right.
And then we worked on maintenance. So, what did you want to tell everybody about maintenance?
Well, I just thought, oh, maintenance, in the past, and it's like, oh, you're off your diet. Everything's, you're done, everything's great.
You go back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got to maintenance and I just thought, everything was going to be easy, but I just learned that it was a learning curve for even for maintenance. And that's something that I never learned anywhere else.
hmm hmm Yeah. And why do you think learning maintenance was important?
I think because you don't just leave all your habits behind. You keep going.
hmm hmm
And you
And it's also not like you go back to what you're doing before. Like, okay, I'm done with my diet, so I stop eating protein. I stop paying attention to fiber. I don't get any steps or do any strength training.
right.
We don't do that.
And for some people that might sound like, oh, I could never do that. But the thing with me is like anytime my brain would start thinking that way, then I'd be like, do I really want to feel how I felt before? No.
Yeah. Do I really want to go back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's so many other benefits outside of just losing weight that you've gained from this.
Yeah. And another one for me was my high blood pressure because I was actually on high blood pressure medications when I started with you.
That's right. And what happened with your blood pressure so everybody can hear?
So I slowly went off and now I'm clear off my medications and it's been great.
Yay! And your doctor was really excited.
Yeah, he was really surprised because he had told me, you'll be on these for the rest of your life. And I'm the type of person like, oh yeah, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yep. You definitely did. You got off the blood pressure medication, which is fantastic.
And it's huge for me because I was really frustrated because I was so young and nobody could give me any answers of why, besides it's hereditary or something like that. But it
Yeah.
was it was huge for me to be able to do that.
It goes to show that diet and exercise can really do a lot. I mean, sometimes there are genetic factors and you're just going to be more genetically prone to having those things, but it doesn't mean that diet and exercise can't make a difference. And you're a really good case study of, yes, it made a huge difference and you were able to get off your blood pressure medication as a result of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times if people think, oh, it's hereditary, there's nothing I can do. If you have that mindset, then yeah, there is nothing you can do.
Right? Because you're focusing on what you can't do.
Right.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. So many good wins. What are some of the other wins you've had? I mean, outside of you've lost some weight and you've learned maintenance, like what else?
I think another thing is just the confidence. Like I'm still
Mm.
on this journey. I'm not, you know, like there. But I think just the confidence knowing that I have the tools to keep going. Like I'm excited to keep going. And I guess one of the biggest thing I've learned is like the journey should be beautiful. It shouldn't
Mm.
be like horrid and hard to do. It shouldn't be miserable. You shouldn't be starving. You shouldn't be living your life like, when's this diet going to end? I think that's a big part of it.
You mean you shouldn't just be on a cabbage stew diet forever?
Yeah, exactly. And then another thing is just one of the things that inspired me to start this journey is just seeing other people in my life, things that they've struggled with, and I'm like, I don't want to get to that point, and so just being knowing having that confidence that I'm on the right path.
Yeah. So you've had quite the journey.
Yeah, it is amazing looking back, just when you think about it and put all the data in front of you, then you're like, wow, I've really come a long ways.
Yeah, I always feel like sort of a proud mama, if you will. Like with my clients, I'm like, look at how far you've come. This is so amazing compared to day one.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It is. Well, Anita, there's a lot of women out there. They might be older than you, but I'm sure you can give them some words of wisdom based on your experience. So what would you say to them? Because a lot of them are struggling probably with a lot of the same things you were. High blood pressure, maybe a chronic health condition that's making them feel defeated and like they're hopeless, weight issues and doing different diets. So like, what are some of the advice you'd give them?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few things I would say, but one of the things I would say is sometimes hard things give you the best in life. And I think that's the outcome of my journey. I mean, AVN and my diagnosis really it's not fun at all, but I probably wouldn't have found Megan without that. So that's one of the things. And then another thing I learned, I mean, coming to what you brought up is sitting in the comfort zone isn't comfortable. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm doing all these things, but repeating the same things over and over that that's not going to work. I think that's a huge one of just sitting in the comfort zone. I mean, that's kind of what I did was I was like, I can't lose weight, so I'll just sit here and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then just you never really fail unless you quit. That's what Megan and I learned a lot together.
Yep.
And right now, wherever you are in your journey, especially if you're in a hard place, then it might not seem possible. Like you're like, oh yeah, I'll never have the energy. Always have cravings. I won't be able to change my mindset. And another thing that was huge for me is like I thought lifestyle change. Anytime anybody said lifestyle, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely not me. that's impossible.
And look at you now.
But right now, it might not seem possible, but trust me, if you work with Megan, you'll get there.
Aw.
And then, yeah, anything is possible. You start with baby steps. And one of the things I actually, a quote that I actually came up with in my journey was, one step is better than a mile if you take that step today.
I love that. It's so true. The way I say that is like something is always better than nothing. Right?
Yeah,
Some steps better than no steps, some protein better than no protein, some tracking better than no tracking, right? So it's kind of the same sort of message that you're saying too, because small steps are what get you there
yeah.
and get you consistent.
And then I just wanted to say thank you, Megan, for everything, because
Aw.
it really helped me find a part of me that I never even thought was possible or
Aw.
even existed. And I'm so proud of how far I've come.
Oh, I'm so proud of you too. Oh, you're so sweet. I know. I've seen like so much tremendous growth in you during our time together, and your confidence is just like the one thing that is just radiating from you because you are just a more confident, upgraded version of yourself. And I'm just so excited for you because you're so young and you just are going to be able to take this through the rest of your life and probably inspire other family members, your kids someday, right? Like I mean, it's such a great thing to see because you were such a young person given such a horrible diagnosis and kind of left to feel hopeless. And I know what that feels like. And nobody should ever be felt that way. Like control what you can control. And you have just really just grown from all the tools and coaching that we've done. And you've gotten the results, but I feel like it's the mental and the confidence that's really where the growth has come in you. And I'm just so happy for you. Really.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And thanks again for coming on and sharing with everybody your experience and your advice. I know it's kind of intimidating to share your personal journey with everybody, but it really does help other people because there's so many people out there who are struggling. And who knows, somebody else might be listening to this who has avascular necrosis or some other health condition too. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to do so. Even if it helps one person, it's good to share and let other people know
Yeah.
that they're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Lanita. I appreciate this, and I will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my free weight loss class. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss, how hormones impact weight loss, and the truth about lasting weight loss without relying on willpower, workouts, or deprivation. Click the link in the show notes to watch that free class today. And if you are a woman over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, schedule a free weight loss breakthrough session with me after you watch that class. And let's talk about your 20 to 50 or more pound weight loss plan.